So let's get started. As we are seeing the chapter number 8, that is the metallurgy, which is having the physical properties of the metals, physical properties of the non-metals, and all, which we are seen here. Also, we have seen about the chemical properties of the metals. Next, now we are going to see about the reaction of the metals, how the reaction of the metals occurs when it comes in contact with the different substances. So, firstly, we are going to see about the reaction of metals with the oxygen. So metals combine with the oxygen on heating in air and metal oxides are formed. Sodium and potassium are very reactive metals. Sodium metal combines with the oxygen in the air even at the room temperature and forms the sodium oxide. So as we have seen here that when four atoms of the sodium element was taken and when it reacts with the oxygen O2 gas, it leads to the formation of the sodium oxide. So, on exposure to the air, sodium readily catches the fire. Therefore, to prevent the accident in the laboratory or elsewhere, it is kept in the kerosene. So, oxides of the some metals are soluble in the water. They react with the water to form the alkali. So, when the sodium oxide Na2O, which is in the solid form, which is reacted with the water, which is in the liquid state, it leads to the formation of alkali, that is the sodium hydroxide, which is in the aqueous state. So, from this we can conclude that when the metal reacts with the oxygen, it leads to the formation of the metal oxides. That is, we call it as the oxides of the metals. And when the oxide of the metals reacts with the water, it leads to the formation of the alkali metals. That is the, as we can see here, that the base is formed, that is sodium hydroxide. Similar example is given here that we know that magnesium oxide is formed on burning magnesium ribbon in the air. This experiment, which we have also seen in the chapter 3 of the class 10 science 1, that is when magnesium ribbon burns, so it reacts with the oxygen which is present in the air. So magnesium oxide is formed, and when magnesium oxide reacts with the water to form an alkali called as the magnesium hydroxide. So similarly, when the oxide of this magnesium, when reacts with the water, it leads to the formation of the hydroxide, that is the magnesium hydroxide. So similar conclusion which we can draw here, that when the oxides of the metals reacts with the water, it leads to the formation of the base, that is the alkali. So as we have seen in the above two reactions, then that when the sodium oxide reacts with the water leads to the formation of sodium hydroxide. Magnesium oxide when reacts with water leads to the formation of magnesium hydroxide. Next is reaction of the metals with the water. सो मेटल की रिएक्शन वाटर के साथ होने के बाद क्या होगा? सो as here we have given the experiment which is there in your science lab book. So you will be going to perform this experiment in the school lab. So what the conclusion as a procedure is, drop a piece of the each metal in the separate beakers filled with the cold water. Which metal reacts with the water? Which metal floats on the water? Why? We have to prepare the reference table for this procedure and we have to observe. So, sodium and potassium metal react rapidly and vigorously with the water and liberates hydrogen gas. So, after performing all this activity, we are able to see that when sodium and the potassium are the two metals that reacts rapidly and vigorously with the water and suddenly liberates the hydrogen gas. So, as we can see in this equation that यहाँ पर हमने सोडियम एलिमेंट है उसके दो एटम्स लिए हैं एंड when it reacts with the two molecules of the hydrogen, so it leads to the formation of the sodium hydroxide aqueous plus hydrogen gas is released and heat is evolved. So such type of reactions, as we have seen, that there are the two different types of the reactions. First one is the endothermic and exothermic. As in this reaction, so the heat is liberated or given out. So here we can see that this type of the reaction is the exothermic reaction. Again, we are having one second example of the reaction, that is potassium when reacts with the water leads to the formation of potassium hydroxide. Hydrogen gas is liberated along with the heat. So this type of the two reactions, from this we can conclude that when a metal reacts with the water, it leads to the formation of hydroxide. That is, sodium reacts with water leads to the formation of sodium hydroxide. Hydrogen gas is liberated and heat is given out. On the other hand, calcium reacts with water slowly and less vigorously. So, from the for the two above reactions, that sodium and the potassium are the two metals that reacts vigorously with the water and suddenly liberates the hydrogen gas and gives out the heat. But on the other case, that calcium reacts with the water slowly and less vigorously. The hydrogen gas released in this reaction collects on the surface of the metal in the form of the bubbles and the metal floats on the water. और जब हम कैल्शियम एलिमेंट है तो उसकी कैल्शियम मेटल एलिमेंट उसकी रिएक्शन जब हम वाटर के साथ करते हैं सो कैल्शियम हाइड्रोक्साइड जो है वो फॉर्म होता है दैट इज CaOH ट्वाइस एक्वेस फॉर्म प्लस हाइड्रोजन गैस इज गिवन. Then the metals aluminum, iron, and zinc do not react with water, that is either hot or cold water. So, but they react with the steam to form their oxides. Hydrogen gas is released in this reaction. So, aluminium when reacts with the water, it leads to the formation of the Al2O3, that is aluminum oxide, and hydrogen gas is evolved. So iron when react with the hydrogen H2O, that is water, leads to the formation of iron oxide or ferric oxide, Fe3O4 plus 4H2. Z and zinc when react with the H2O leads to the formation of zinc oxide and hydrogen gas is given out. So here, as we can see here, that different molecules of the hydrogen gas is given out. So this is because of the balancing of that chemical reaction. As we have seen, the balancing of the chemical reactions in the chapter 3. So chapter 3 concept is are also important for studying all the concepts related with this metallurgy chapter, as balancing of the chemical reactions will be required for writing down this type of the reactions in the exam also and understanding. So, the overall conclusion that we have drawn here that reaction of metals with oxygen क्या होगा जब मेटल ऑक्सीजन के साथ रिएक्ट होगा देन मेटल ऑक्साइड तैयार होगा दैट इज वी हैव सीन द एग्जांपल्स. और जब मेटल ऑक्साइड जब वाटर के साथ रिएक्ट होगा सो इट विल फॉर्म्स द अल्कली दैट इज द हाइड्रोक्साइड वी कॉल्ड इट एज द बेस. रिएक्शन ऑफ द मेटल विद द वाटर में हमने देखा कि जब मेटल वाटर के साथ रिएक्ट होगा सो वहां पर फॉर्मेशन होगा हाइड्रोक्साइड्स का और H2 गैस गिवन आउट होगी और हीट भी गिवन आउट होगी उस रिएक्शन में. So we have seen the different examples that sodium, potassium rapidly and vigorously react होते water के साथ और hydrogen gas liberate करते. Compared with the sodium and the potassium, so calcium reacts with the water slowly and less vigorously. और जो aluminium है, iron है, zinc है, that do not react with the cold or the hot water, but they react with the steam to form their oxides. So next we are going to see here we have given the experiment, that is the metal tube is taken, glass wool soaked in the water we have taken here, Bunsen burner is there, stand is there, cork is attached with that attached to that test tube and hydrogen gas is given out. So as we can see here the hydrogen gas is collected here and the water is there. So this is the reaction of the metal with the water. So in exam it may be asked that this type of the diagram will be given and they will ask to write down the reactions of the metals with respect to the above diagram. So it is obviously that is the reaction with the water. So reaction with water it leads to the formation of the hydroxide and as we can see here, so we have to write down the reactions that sodium, potassium and calcium. So next is the reaction of the metals with the oxygen. As we have seen that reaction of the metals with the oxygen, again here given that reaction of the metals with the oxygen. So in the earlier chapter we have looked into the reaction of the metals with the acids. Are all the metals equally reactive? When samples of the aluminium, magnesium, iron or zinc are treated with the dilute sulfuric or the hydrochloric acid, sulfate or chloride salts of the metals are formed. Hydrogen gas is liberated in this reaction. The reactivity of these metals can be indicated by the following sequence. Magnesium की reactivity सबसे ज़्यादा होगी as compared with the aluminium, then zinc and then the iron. So the reactivity of all this has been concluded or the conclusion has been drawn by performing the experiment. So all the metals have been reacted with the dilute acid as we have taken here the samples of aluminium, magnesium, iron, and zinc, and we are treated it with the dilute sulfuric acid as well as the hydrochloric acid which is in the dilute form. And we have observed that sulfates of the chloride salts of the metals are formed. Hydrogen gas is also liberated in this type of the reaction. So the reactions are given below that when अगर हम जब मैग्नीशियम मेटल की जब रिएक्शन करते हैं हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड के साथ, सो वहां पर फॉर्म होता है मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड, दैट इज द MgCl2, एंड हाइड्रोजन गैस इज गिवन आउट. एल्यूमिनियम की रिएक्शन हम हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड के साथ करते हैं, सो AlCl3 प्लस हाइड्रोजन गैस इज लिबरेटेड. Fe की रिएक्शन HCl के साथ FeCl2 इज फॉर्म, हाइड्रोजन गैस इज लिबरेटेड. जिंक की रिएक्शन HCl के साथ जिंक क्लोराइड, हाइड्रोजन गैस इज liberated. So all these are the reactions. We can see here that the chlorides salts are formed. This is only the reaction of the metals with the oxygen. So next is the reaction of the metals with the nitric acid. So nitrate salts of the metals are formed on reaction of the metals with nitric acid. और जब metals की reaction nitric acid के साथ की जाती है, so various oxides of the nitrogen N2O, NO, NO2 are formed in the accordance with their concentration of the nitric acid. सो यहाँ पर हमें रिएक्शन दी गई है कि कॉपर जो कि सॉलिड फॉर्म में है, अगर उसकी रिएक्शन हम कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड नाइट्रिक एसिड दैट इज द HNO3 के साथ अगर रिएक्शन करते हैं, सो कॉपर नाइट्रेट दैट इज CuNO3 ट्वाइस aqueous solution which is formed and nitric oxide gas is released and here H2O that is the water is formed. Or similar example that is ये दो type of the reaction they are surely and mostly asked in the exams regards with that. So keep in mind अगर concentrated के साथ nitric acid के साथ अगर copper की reaction होगी, so copper nitrate will be formed and two twice of NO2 and water is liberated. अगर कॉपर की 8HNO3 दैट इज डाइल्यूट फॉर्म, अगर डाइल्यूट नाइट्रिक एसिड के साथ अगर रिएक्शन होती है, सो कॉपर नाइट्रेट CuNO3 ट्वाइस बनेगा एंड NO और चार वाटर मॉलिक्यूल्स विल बी गिवन आउट. Next, we are having the aqua regia. So, aqua regia is highly corrosive and fuming liquid. It is one of the few reagents which can dissolve the noble metals like gold and platinum. Aqua regia is freshly prepared by mixing concentrated hydrochloric acid and concentrated nitric acid in the ratio 3:1. और aqua regia ये एक highly corrosive and fuming liquid होता है, और इसमें basically this liquid is used as a few reagents which can be dissolved in the noble metals like the gold and platinum can be easily dissolved in this aqua regia. और aqua regia बनता है mixing the concentrated hydrochloric acid and concentrated nitric acid which is in the ratio of 3:1. अगर 3 ml अगर हम हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड लेते हैं concentrated, तो 1 ml हमें नाइट्रिक एसिड लेना पड़ेगा. So this is about the aqua regia. Next, we are having the reaction of the metals with the salts of the other metals. So, copper wire, iron nail, beaker. Again, we have given the experiment. Take a clean copper wire and a clean iron nail. Dip the copper wire in the ferrous sulfate solution and the iron nail in the copper sulfate solution. Keep on observing continually at a fixed interval of the time in which test tube a reaction has taken place. How do you recognize that the reaction has taken place? What is the type of the reaction? So, यहाँ पर ये जो एक्सपेरिमेंट में हमें यहाँ पर रिएक्शन दी गई है, सो वी हैव टू टेक अ क्लीन कॉपर वायर एंड अ क्लीन आयरन नेल. डिप द कॉपर वायर इन द फेरस सल्फेट सॉल्यूशन. कॉपर वायर जो है वो फेरस सल्फेट सॉल्यूशन यानी कि आयरन सल्फेट यानी फेरस सल्फेट का जो सॉल्यूशन है उसमें कॉपर वायर डिप करनी है, और जो आयरन नेल है वो कॉपर सल्फेट के सॉल्यूशन में डिप करना है. सो कीप ऑब्जर्विंग कंटिन्यूअली एट द फिक्स्ड इंटरवल ऑफ द टाइम. और हमें देखना है कि कौन से टेस्ट ट्यूब में रिएक्शन हैपन हुई है. हाउ डू यू रिकॉग्नाइज दैट द रिएक्शन हैज टेकन प्लेस, विच टाइप ऑफ द रिएक्शन हैज occurred. So as we have also seen about this reaction in the chapter 3, so here the displacement reaction has takes place. Basically, cork thread, test tube, copper sulfate, ferrous sulfate solution, and we can able to see that the reaction of the metals with the salts of the other metals will leads to the formation of the salts. So reactivity of the series of the metals we will be seeing in the next part. Up to now, we have seen about what are the different reaction of the metals, reaction of metal with oxygen, reaction of metal with water, then reaction of the metal with the oxygen. We have seen the reactivity order, that magnesium is greater than aluminum, greater than zinc, greater than iron. And also we have seen about the various different reactions which takes place Then we have seen about the reaction of the metals with nitric acid, concentrated dilute. When we have seen about the aqua regia, reaction of the metals with the salts of the other metals. Also, we have seen this activity. So, if you are having any doubt regards with this chapter and all, then try to answer in the try to ask the questions in the comment box. I will definitely try to answer that questions. And if you like the video, then do like, share, and subscribe. So thank you for joining this. We will be continuing with the reactivity series of the metals in the next part.